to livestock. All right. And on today's episode of The Resident Vet, in livestock agribusiness, feed accounts for more than 60% of the total production cost. Despite this, drought continues to ravage many parts of the country, making feeds more scarce and expensive. To overcome this, dairy farmers from Machakos County got an opportunity to learn about fodder management from the International Livestock Research Institute at Kapiti Research Station. Our reporter, Dr. Paul Kangebe, attended this event and brings us this report on today's episode of The Resident Vet.
Cows don't eat excuses. In today's episode of The Resident Vet, we bring you the outcomes of a farmer training that was organized by the International Livestock Research Institute at the Kapiti field station, where farmers were being taught on how to grow their own fodder and how to feed their animals to make sure that they give them optimum production. Kaidri, join us.
My name is Ilona Glücks and I work at the International Livestock Research Institute, and I'm the head of the Clinical Research Facility and Contract Research. This is ILRI's Kapiti Research Station and Wildlife Conservancy. So we're here in Machakos County. It's a place of about 32,000 acres where the International Livestock Research Institute conducts research on animal health, animal genetics, the environment, and engages with the community in training and demonstration. What we are trying to do is produce different fodder varieties and show the farmers how to grow them, management and harvest the fodder so that they can feed their livestock to improve at the end milk production.
So my name is Ian Mtua. I'm the lead agronomist under the KNPA program, working with Land O'Lakes Venture 37. When it comes to livestock production, I think some of the challenges that the farmers are facing is inadequacy when it comes to feed. So for instance, you'll find out during the rainy seasons, there's a lot of roadside grasses. So you'll find this is some of the feeds that are being used by the farmers to sustain their livestock. But once the rains go, it's like the norm, also the grasses do what? They disappear. So what we are trying to do is to help these farmers have an abundant amount of forages or feeds to feed their livestock even in absence or when the rain goes away. So that, I can say, is one of the main challenges that is facing livestock production, inadequacy when it comes to feeds. Every enterprise needs to make some income. So our main agenda today is we are focusing on the smallholder women dairy farmers, because we believe they have the potential not only to make an income for themselves, but also to uplift the household as a whole system. So targeting these farmers, we also believe that they're the right people to implement some of the things that we are training here. So coming to this region, it's like we want to create an awareness that we have different types of forages that can do well in these ecological zones. And through the women empowerment, also the youth, these are the people that we hope that can adopt and basically implement this. So that is the main agenda of here today, just creating that awareness and like telling these women that we have these options for you that you can easily adopt through the training that we are giving you. We have had forages even for the longest. We have had lucerne, we have had napier grass for the longest. But some of the forages that we are training, first is silage maize, so different maize varieties that have been bred specifically to make silage. We have some nutrient-dense forage. By nutrient-dense, I mean like these are forages which are packed with nutrients, and this is things like the lucerne. This is the forage sorghum, the pearl millet, and some of the panicums and the brachyrias that we are having here. So we are introducing some very good improved forages which are nutrient-dense. So with the different types of forages that we have, they also do well in different ecological regions, and also they do well with different soil types. So the approach that we are taking is we are starting from the soil, coming up. So first we do the soil analysis, just take the different types of nutrients available, the pH levels, whether it's high or low, then match that with a particular forage for a particular region. Because the reason why there's underproduction or there's inadequate feed is that farmers are not considering the soil health when it comes to do what? To feeding. So another thing is you might have the correct soil, might have the correct geological or ecological region, but how to maximize on a particular variety is what is lacking. And some of the things that we have identified is like farmers really don't know the planting spaces, because the planting spaces determines your plant population and also the different cutting stage. So if you delay, let's say harvesting a particular crop like Lucerne, you lose the herbage, so the weight goes down. So the approach that we are taking is it's all the way down, coming up from the soil, the cut stage, the spacing, just to have as much herbage as possible, weed management, just to ensure that you get the optimum from from these varieties that we have. I think the biggest mistake that we have been doing is not treating Napier as a crop. So we have been just growing Napier as a by the way, and also not considering its feeding habits or how we are supposed to manage it and feed it. So we have different methods of how you're supposed to plant a Napier crop. For instance, let's say there's a tumbukiza method, which encourages more multiple sprouts from one particular hole, so that one increases on the herbage. Another thing that we are advocating is the different cut height or cut stage. The Napier that we have been having, people are doing it 4 or 5 meters above. Actually, we should cut it at this particular level when it's still green. That way, it is more nutrition to the crop, as opposed to waiting for it to overgrow, over mature, like the norm that we have been doing it. So Napier is not bad. The different cut stage is what really determines its nutritional value. So what we are doing, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just telling these farmers you can grow Napier at this particular way and cut it at this particular stage for it to make more sense when you're feeding your livestock. From the setup that we have today, we have brought the different companies who have supplied us with the different seeds that are here. So in the tent system, it's a more of a sit down where the farmer gets to interact with the different companies. From there, they're able to be linked up with the different sales agent from where they're coming from. So, but ideally, they're being stocked up in the major agrovets. Then from then, let's say if there are no smaller agrovets, more interior, the sales agents, once they get an accumulative amount of order, they can now do the delivery system on an individual basis, maybe for the women, to the women chama groups, to the cooperatives at the lower levels, or to the society groups that are there. So the farmers can still get an access to it, but it would be advisable that the farmers first come here, get linked with the local guys for them to access the seeds.
Kwa jina ni Helen Mzioki kutoka Masi Farmers Comparative Society Limited. Mimi ni mkulima wa ng'ombe wa maziwa na niko na ng'ombe 12. Changamoto ni wakati kama huu wa drought, huu wa njaa, hakuna chakula cha ng'ombe. Chakula ni kununua, hakuna cash ya kununua chakula ile inahitajika. Sometimes nanunua chakula mnapatia ng'ombe kwa kipimo kwa sababu ya pesa. Nimesoma kuhusu kupanda mahindi na mahali itafika ndio nikatakate nifanye silage. Hiyo ilikuwa lesson moja mzuri sana na mimi naenda kuifanya.
Mimi ni mkulima wa ng'ombe za maziwa. Nimekuwa kwa hiyo field kwa karibu miaka 7. Changamoto ni nyingi. Ile area tunatoka haina enough rain. Hiyo ni kitu wa kwanza, na pia resources. Unakuta you want to go this but you cannot go because of the limitation of resources. Kuna changamoto nyingi. Kwanza maji. Shida kubwa ni maji. You have to go look for that water. Maji haiko karibu. Shendi hujaweka shendi ile ambayo inaweza toshea chakula nyingi. Kwa hivyo unakuta saa zingine chakula inaisha. Wakati mvua inachelewa, ile store ulikuwa umeweka, hiyo chakula inaisha. Na inapoisha, inakuwa ku-access food outside from our area inakuwa ni ngumu.
Some of the things that we are advocating is harvesting and conservation. So we are introducing things like silage making. Silage making has been there, but in a different region. So we have different types of silage making. For the smallholder farmers, we have the tubing system, where the farmers with, let's say, with a small acreage can easily just harvest the crops, chop them really well, and feed them on the tube, and just tighten it and preserve it for a while. Things like the lucerne, we are advocating things like hay making, where you cut it at the right stage and let it dry while it's still green, because that's where the nutrients are. So these are some of the things that the farmers actually know. We're just like making them more aware that you can actually do this, so that when the rains go and it's the dry season, these feeds are still available for you.
Education is power, and that is what has been lacking in majority of the farmers, to help them be able to produce better. And for today, the farmers around Machakos region have been taught from the Kapiti Research Station, that is owned and run by the International Livestock Research Institute, on how they can grow their own fodder and conserve them, be it through sun, maize silage, and hay, so that they can feed these to their animals for maximum production. That is all we had for you in today's episode of The Resident Vet. Until next time, bye-bye.
Well, with that